Well, I played Metal Gear Solid 4 again, and because I am a psychopath who loves to torture himself, this time I did my playthrough with a mouse and keyboard setup in RPCS 3. But instead of getting tortured, what I experienced was empathy. Empathy towards Snake, Otacon, Meryl, Akiba, Eva, Ocelot, and Hideo Kojima. Metal Gear Solid 4 is an end of a saga, a goodbye to a legend. MGS4 is not at all the most acclaimed game of the franchise, but it still is a game which does not try to make you feel inspired or unstoppable. What it makes you feel is empathy towards the end. This is Phantom, and you are watching Not a Review. A place where we don't judge video games or critique upon them, but it's a place where we talk about what video games mean to us. And today is all about Metal Gear Solid 4, The Guns of the Patriots.
They see you as small and helpless. They see you as just a child. Surprised when they find out that a warrior will soon run wild. Prepare for your greatest moments. Prepare for your finest hour. The dream that you've always dreamed is suddenly about to flower. We are lightning, straight from the thunder. Miracles of ancient wonder. This will be the day we've waited for. This will be the day we open up the door. Revolution. Hope you're ready for revolution. Welcome to a world of dissolution. Welcome to a world of bloody evolution. In time, hope will open minds. The story will be told. And victory is in a simple soul. Your world needs a great defender. Your world's in the way of harm. You want some romantic life, a fairy tale that's full of charm. Beware that the light is fading. Beware as the dark returns. This world's unforgiving, even bright lights will cease to burn.
I'll say it again. Marry me.
My son, I'm not here to fight. What? It's over.
Metal Gear Solid 4 was made at a time when Hideo Kojima himself didn't want to continue with the franchise, but his fandom at the time literally bullied him into making a sequel. Yeah, speaking about normal fandoms. But it also marked a time in Hideo Kojima's career when he realized that Metal Gear had become something more than a mere creation of his, and he needed to provide a closure to it. As Hideo Kojima once himself said, MGS is my creation, but it's not mine. So whatever form it takes, as long as there are fans, MGS will be created. And this is where Metal Gear Solid 4 became important, because there was a need for closer to the characters, and that is solely what Metal Gear Solid 4 achieved. Since the moment you boot the game, you will be introduced with a contradictory quote to "War never changes," where Hideo Kojima tried to portray an ideology of human tendency to do things that human has always done. Destruction. Destruction to fundamentals. Destruction to rules set by the nature. And destruction to himself. Where the introduction of the game works as a teaser of how war has no longer remained about ideologies. What it has become now is about profit. As soon as the introduction of the game starts, we get pleaded by a commentary of Old Snake about how war has changed.
War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine.
MGS4 works as the outcome of defeat in Solid Snake's saga, where he failed to achieve everything he tried to save, and he is about to fail to even save himself. War is no longer about ideologies, ethnicity, or any fundamentals of history. It's all about profits. Where once soldiers were considered some greater heroes who sacrificed themselves for the common are now just some expendable pawns of war. MGS4 gives you a controlled freedom where it's your own choice to intervene in a conflict which does not affect you by any means. It's your own job to understand all the sides and conclude on what side you want to be, or hell even not interfere at all. And now it's totally on you to make a moral judgment on a conflict you know nothing about. Metal Gear Solid 4 represents automation of war, where instead of the older camouflage system from Metal Gear Solid 3, this game provides you with a automated camouflage suit, which will change its appearance according to your surroundings automatically. Even the first form of actual threat to Snake in the game are unmanned drones, which is totally something very evident even in the current world events, where use of drones has become more and more popular. And that is the jinx of it, that the moral generation's time has passed. Snake's time has passed. And now it was not about style, but it was about acceptance. Acceptance of faith. And we get a feel of this just with the first mission briefing interaction of MGS4, where after understanding his own faith, a white petal falls on the hand of Snake, representing the legend of the fallen who fought either with him or against him, but I just can't feel any hatred for who died against me or who died with me. What it made me feel was only empathy. And soon our long-lost friend Campbell gives us the mission, assassination of Ocelot, whom I will only call Ocelot, not Liquid Ocelot, because I immensely respect the character of Ocelot. And that too to an extent that I am right now working on a character study on Ocelot. That is how deep that character is. Anyways, the whole correlation of assassination of Ocelot is connected with the control of how PMCs have now taken over war. And because of immense use of nanomachines and VR training, which here is a really great way of criticizing the mindless warmongering online games which we have in today's date, which does not carry any substance or meaning, but what they carry instead is make war look cool in children, making them ready and numb for the new age of war. Yeah, I totally sometimes feel like a bitchy uncle, but yeah, come on, I am also not untouched by these online games. Even I play games like Call of Duty, The Division and all regularly. Hell, I am even damn excited for Battlefield 6, but it's a matter of substance of what we like or we don't. I am a human being and that makes me a hypocrite. I will hate upon the games I don't understand or click with, whereas I will ignore the shortcomings of the games or any form of art I like. And this statement does not only apply in regards to art but society too. But that is where empathy comes in, to make you understand and respect other perspectives. But that is the thing here, that I could sit here and talk about Metal Gear Solid for hours and hours and I will not get bored because I love it so much. And that brings us to the first act of the game. The whole Act 1 works as the template to make you understand the meaning of stealth in chaos, because you have to manage your way around an active battlefield, which was a very new thing in the franchise, where the previous games were always more isolated in terms of their setting, like the very brutalist industrial complex setting of MGS1 and 2 or the jungle of MGS3. What MGS4 decides to do is send you straight into chaos because of the advantages of the hardware PlayStation 3 came with. But MGS4 still turned out to be a game which pushed the limits of PS3, the sole console it has been released on, period. And that portrays the ambition this game carried, even though being a title made by a worn-out writer about a worn-out soldier who is nothing more than half under his own grave. Our first objective of Act 1 was making contact with our informants in the battlefield, the Rat Patrol, and in the process we get introduced to a really great term called environmental storytelling, where the world does not feed you with information, and well, that this game does a lot, but still somehow it leaves a bit of it to be explored and understood through the world itself. Meanwhile, we also get to meet Drebin and his sassy monkey, and they are the pillar of the game, which isn't black or white throughout till the end, because he is throughout portrayed as a gun launderer. And throughout the story, he becomes the one to supply us weapons and get us rid of ID tag weapons we procure in the story. And we also get to witness Snake flexing his weapon discipline quite disciplinary. And soon we get to meet Akiba. I fucking hate this motherfucker for how lucky he is. Anyways, then we get to meet my beloved Meryl, who is now commanding officer of Rat Patrol, a unit of her own. I wanna die by those thighs. Meryl, no. Rat Patrol is under Foxhound banner, which tells us that Meryl never gave up upon the Foxhound unit, whereas Snake did. While she gets pity after seeing him in his condition, and that was the moment this game threw the truth that this is the end. And that is what this game will keep on trying to make you remember, that you are at the end of a saga. while Rat Patrol was a unit sent to understand and study the PMC activities on behalf of a more ideological and old form of army of United States. And that is how Meryl finds out about Ocelot's presence in the conflict, taking us to this very moment in the game. We also get to know that Meryl is angry on her father, Campbell. Yeah, the very person who has sent us on this mission. I mean, her father has only married a younger woman. I mean, yeah. Oh, she looks so cute while being angry. Yeah, sure.
Stop it. Get some help.
Anyways, for the plot's sake, I should talk about this pant-sitting motherfucker too. See, here I am not in problem with the character of Akiba. What I have problem with is how much does he make me jealous of him for his fucking luck. While being mostly a comedic relief in the saga, but in MGS4, he literally becomes the character who wins the most while being, oh god, I have to say this, adorable for some reason. Meanwhile, these other two members of Rat Patrol, Ed and Jonathan, just turns out to be pretty underutilized extras in the story without any background or much of a soul to them, except some pretty good scenes later in the epilogue of the game. But soon, because Akiba, being the idiot he is, gives up their location with the reflection of his binoculars, which triggers a damn good clear house style boss fight with all that cool looking stacking and clearing hostiles style of gameplay, for which Ready or Not type of games are famous for. And the hostiles which we encounter here are the frog unit of Ocelots, who were so greatly designed, while the whole sequence works as a great set piece which gives a damn good first impression of what we are gonna get ahead in the game. And as soon as this sequence ends and Meryl shares the location of Ocelot, we get introduced to the Beauty and the Beast unit, which consisted of 4 beautiful women and a retard. Yeah, fuck you, Vamp, I hate him since Metal Gear Solid 2. So yeah, I am pretty much justified here. I mean, just look at that face, it's so fuckable. Anyways, here they just make an appearance and leaves, giving us a pretty tease for the coming boss fights. Great. And then after a small stealth sequence, we get face to face to the man who sold the world. We get face to face with Ocelot, and he just triggers a PTSD syndrome in all the soldiers on the battlefield, because he turns off their nanomachines, which were suppressing the PTSD of the continuous war they were part of. Meanwhile, Akiba didn't get affected by it. Pretty sus. Fuck you, Akiba. And then this bitch comes, does drugs and leaves a bit for us. Yeah, meet Naomi, guys. She is the type of woman who will drink your blood in bed and then leave you on dialysis. And well, that is how the first act of the game ends. A defeat and a start of the end. Now, Act 2 again starts with Sunny making sunny side ups for Snake and Otacon, in which she fails pretty miserably, but hey, she's just a kid, give her a slack, you buffoon. Meanwhile, Otacon gets an SOS from Naomi, the myth herself, to come and save her from South Africa because Ocelot is using her to do some evil shit. So this very obvious trap is exactly for what any protagonist roots for, so that he can free fall in it. And that is what we did. So as soon as we reach the location and the whole mission starts, we get welcomed by a key and a octopus. Yeah. And then again, after going through a pretty nice stealth segment in South Africa and also meeting Ryden's ex-wife Rosemary, who is now married with Campbell for some reason, explaining as to why Meryl called her father a womanizer. Yeah! Meanwhile, the long-gone haywire Ryden also makes an appearance and helps us find our way to Naomi. Okay, so now I should also talk about the Intentions of Beauty and the Beast unit, which consists of 4 war-torn women who have PTSD from their times in war, and for them, killing Snake is the only way to ease their pain. While Drebin also explains to us what SOP is, and in short, it's a bunch of AI servers which has a planned course of future war at its will, which will grant the Patriots to control wars even after they are gone. What people need to be against, which government should fall, who should win, who should fail, everything will be controlled and meaningless. And I am using today's world to portray how real this has become now. And as soon as we succeed to meet Naomi, she explains the difference between free will and control, where she also explains the whole plan of Ocelot, which is to free the soldiers from the influence of those suppressing nanomachines which are widely used on the battlefield to suppress the PTSD and emotion related to war in soldiers. And the events of Act 1 were just a mere trial of a bigger picture. And at this point, you also start to realize that what Ocelot is doing is giving the free will of the people back. So, who is the villain? This scene is also a reflection of how Snake is not a part of this system. He still has a free will. And then Naomi asks us to strip down, to inspect. Yeah, and this also becomes the scene of the explanation for what the rapid aging has done to Snake's body. And all this because Zero wanted all the copies of Big Boss to be disposable. He made them age rapidly by hindering with their genes. And now because this bitch inserted Foxguy virus in Snake during the events of Sadomosis without thinking of the rapid aging, Snake is starting to slowly become a walking bioweapon. Great. So the conclusion comes that in 3 months, Snake will become a doomsday device. Yeah, that was not good for the stress level of Snake, I guess. Oh, hello, Miss Laughing Octopus. Okay, so, well, in all the Metal Gear games, the bosses have always carried more grand meaning than just being a pain in the arse. And same goes for Metal Gear Solid 4 too, where the first boss we encountered, Miss Laughing Octopus, was a beautiful Scandinavian woman who was forced into killing her own family by a cult. And while doing that, they made her laugh to make her feel that she was enjoying killing her own family. And that is exactly what she did, leaving her dead inside. And that is why she continuously laughs. But when we defeat her, she tells us that her laugh isn't just laugh. And then Hideo Kojima makes us shoot her boobies with their tranquilizer pistol to stop her from seducing us. Moving on. After defeating Laughing Octopus, we head outside to track down Naomi, who gets abducted in the process of the whole boss fight. And we get a really great tracking mission from this, asking us to use our own brain to track down where she has been taken by using our surroundings. How deep the footprints are around us, which explains if someone was being carried. And then we cannot also use our NVGs all the time because the humming sound of it will give up our location to the frog unit, which is hunting us throughout. And when we manage to get to where Naomi is, we again come face to face to this asshole. Yeah, I just hate Vamp for some reason, even I don't know, so please bear with me. Anyways, Snake shoots Vamp and that leads him to start regenerating. But before going AFK, he again turns off the nanomachines of soldiers around the battlefield. But Snake didn't get affected by it because of the syringe Naomi gave him earlier. Draven also comes to help us get the fuck out of the place, leading to a great chase sequence ending up at getting crashed in the middle of a city. And I just can't understand how dumb Otacon is for making the extraction point in middle of a fucking city. But hey, it leads to the entry of Raiden and a really cool fight sequence where these two buffoons uses their bodies just like she used me. Expendably. This scene also works as a tribute to Raiden, a character who was hated so much in MGS2 because people thought that he wasn't cool enough. And hence the whole story arc comes circling right upon us, where in MGS2 Snake was the one who kept on saving Raiden. Here it's Raiden protecting Snake. This also becomes the first time we get to fight the geckos, and I should say that they are pretty dumb, but yeah, cool. And this whole circus ends with a very intimate end to fight between Vamp and Raiden, leading this buffoon to get bedridden. And at this point, you should have realized that MGS4 is running on an Indiana Jones formula of taking our protagonist on a tour of the globe, connecting everything in between using Nomad, a place where all the plot points gets connected with each other in the form of a mission briefing. And that is with what our Act 3 starts. Again, this starts with Sunny making eggs or still trying to make eggs, while Naomi explains that Ocelot is in search of Big Boss's body in Eastern Europe because somehow that half-dead body is the key to gain access to the AI network of SOP. And in background, Raiden is also bleeding out, to which the solution is also available in Europe, where the particular synthetic blood of Raiden is available. And this becomes the start of one of the best Mission Impossible style tailing mission in history of gaming, where thanks to Laughing Octopus, Snake now has ability to appear as a younger version of himself. Yeah, that is what most old people want at this moment, aren't they? Anyways, now to get across the checkpoint at the railway station, Meryl helps Snake and also briefs him on the current situation of Europe, where at this point all the local streets are locked down and Meryl has a whole battalion of US soldiers waiting for Ocelot. Our mission, if we choose to accept it, our mission is to trail a member of the resistance force in the city to get to the leader of the resistance, who is called Big Mama. Okay, so now in terms of gameplay, this mission is totally different with a very noir detective style of aesthetic and a structure relying on staying undetected, which remains for like 15 minutes. But those 15 minutes are pretty solid and perfect because it stops this structure to become incoherent. And when we finally reach the resistance hideout and get face to face with Big Mama, the reality strikes that she is none other than Eva, the very Chinese woman who was so much mad in love with Big Boss that she literally planted the genes of Big Boss inside herself to give birth to the offsprings of Big Boss. Talking about psychopathic tendencies here. And yeah, she is Snake's mother technically, and my guy's reaction to the information was very American. Like, now that is the most normal thing to hear from a woman, that I am your mother. Yeah, great. Hey bitch, I am your mother, fuck you. And this whole scene also works as a very big exposition dump, for which this saga I have always criticized for. But in shorter version, Eva explains how the Patriots were formed out of two different ideologies of two different people, one being Big Boss himself and other being Zero, the very best friend of Big Boss. And this was the point where contradiction plummeted between the two. Here, Big Boss wanted freedom to all the soldiers of the world, and Zero wanted to control over the world events to maintain a peaceful society, but they both failed and became the very things they hated the most, demons. And they both reached a breaking point when Zero asked Paramedic and Eva to make clones of Big Boss, and he did all this behind the back of Big Boss, resulting in Big Boss leaving Zero and making a outer heaven of his own. And so at this point, Eva had the body of Big Boss kept in a van, and then Otacon informs us that Naomi has escaped. Yeah, Otacon sometimes think of your dick too. That is how obvious her escape was. But because now the whole Ocelot army is behind us, we gotcha escape with the body leading us to a great chase sequence, which reminded me why I have always wanted to buy Triumph Bonneville for myself. But leaving that apart, at the end of the chase sequence, Eva again gets injured in the same manner in which she got injured in MGS3, while we get into a fight with the second Beauty and the Beast soldier, the Raging Raven. And now to give substance on Raging Raven, she was an Indonesian woman who was captured by soldiers when she was a mere child. The soldiers, mad with rage of war that they had experienced over years, would beat and torment the captured children daily, including Raven. But to their mistake, one day Raven managed to kill all the soldiers alongside the captured in her rage, while screaming and cooing. To her, there was no difference. And after that, Kojima made us shoot her boobies with tranquilizer pistol to stop her from seducing Snake. Yeah. And after this, injured Eva and Snake escapes through the sewers, where this whole sequence initially was planned to be another escort-style mission, which was in MGS3. But it was scrapped for the good because I fucking hated escorting Eva in MGS3. And as soon as they reach the end of the sewers, we get to meet Ocelot, already waiting for us just to greet us with the defeat and the destroyed boat in which Big Boss's body was present. And to make all this even worse, Meryl comes with her whole battalion of US soldiers, which, to be honest, was a pretty dope sequence, but all this goes in vain as soon as Ocelot shut down their nanomachines and spreads havoc. And in the process, Eva dies on the street. Snake gets burnt on his face, and Akiba gets a kiss for giving Meryl CPR. I am telling you, man, this guy makes me jealous, for fuck's sake. And this is how this act ends, with an exposition dump of how all this happened, just because of two people interpreting Boss's will incorrectly.
The saints never die. Can't wash the blood off our hands. Let no one fill us all. It's just means to an end.
So, with the help of Mark II, we get to know that Ocelot is trying to nuke the original JD AI server so that he could use his own preserved GW AI to control the world. Yeah, this whole AI part doesn't make much sense and even feels a bit boring in terms of writing, but it was essential to establish a further story for the characters. And plotting the importance of Shadow Moses again, because Ocelot needed a non-ID nuke, which at this point was only available on Metal Gear Rex, which is in Shadow Moses Island. And on the way to Shadow Moses Island, Snake gets a dream about it, through which we get to play the first part of Metal Gear Solid again. taking us through one of the greatest nostalgia trips ever. And just after that, we get to stand on the very same place we stood a decade ago and realize how far we have come. While the best is yet to come was playing in the background, we get to see the cameras for the first time again. We get to go through the vents for the first time again. We get to experience a masterpiece for the first time again. Act 4 works more than just a plot piece for the game. It works as a reminder of how far we have come and how Sadomosis has become a relic in our hearts. Now, a person like me always consider nostalgia as a bait tool to attract gamers, which is very common at today's date for studios like Ubisoft and Activision, who use assets again and again to keep their audience engaged. But Metal Gear Solid 4 turned out to be a little different because it used the nostalgia as a plot tool to explain the character growth of our protagonists through the first game. It reminded us of the Grey Fox. It reminded us of a time when we didn't used to think about the day tomorrow. Sadomosis is that for me, a little wine bottle aging final day by day.
Colonel, what's a Russian gunship doing here?
I have no idea, but it looks like our little diversion got their attention.
Do you think love can bloom even on a battlefield?
Yeah, I do. I think at any time, any place, people can fall in love with each other. But if you love someone, you have to be able to protect them.
And then we get to fight my favorite boss of this game, the Crying Wolf. And she is the boss who has the most disturbing background story in my opinion. Raging Wolf was an African woman who was born in an era of ethnic cleansing in Africa. And in the process of saving herself and the only family she had, her little brother from soldiers, she accidentally suffocated her brother and killed him just so that enemy soldiers failed to find them. After that, she roamed the battlefield with her dead brother in her hands until she reached a government-run refugee camp, where people like herself and children like her brother were taking refuge. The cries of the children tormented her day and night, and one night she heard a wolf killing all the children one by one. But I guess you already know what was the reality. She killed all the children herself. And after defeating her, Kojima makes us shoot her boobies with tranquilizer pistol to stop her from seducing us. And then when we reach Rex, we also get to know that Ocelot has already extracted the nuclear payload from it. And this gay-ass vampire comes up to give us a fight, which turned out to be a pretty cliched fight because to defeat Vamp, we needed to turn his nanomachines off with the syringe Naomi gave us. At this point, I believe that this syringe is the answer to all my life problems. Anyways, after jabbing this asshole with the syringe, Raiden shows up to get a closer on his arch rival, leading to a great split-screen movement where Raiden and Vamp are having their intimate scenes, and on the other side, Snake is fighting for his dear life. And all this leads to the death of Vamp and a guilty suicide. Yeah, Naomi is so dead. I guess Otacon is after all dying single like most of us. Yeah. I mean, Otakon's love life has always been the worst she can say is no. Dies. After that, we finally get to pilot a Metal Gear in a Metal Gear game. How surprising, ain't it? And it's a pretty great boss fight, to be honest. And now I could waste next 10 minutes explaining a deeper meaning of this boss fight, but hey, let's keep it as a cool boss fight for the sake of my own sanity. But after the end of this boss fight, we see Liquid summon a whole ass nuclear submarine, which he has named Outer Haven, which for some reason is also a depiction of Mount Rushmore with Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, Venom Snake, and Big Boss. Yeah, that is my depiction cause many people say that it's Solid Snake on there, but I prefer it to be Venom Snake. Yeah, did I mention Venom Snake is my favorite character in a video game? Anyways, Ocelot tries to crash that fucking submarine into Snake while this old buffoon sits there just like how Napoleon sat in Moscow starving. And again, Raiden saves him by destroying his brand new body again. My guy just hates his body at this point. Yeah, to be honest, even if I had a metal Act 5 works as the final act of the game, where now it's finally time for the older generation to leave their legacy behind for the future. We are now on board Missouri, the only ship which isn't jabbed by nanomachines ID tags and could give a fight back to Ocelot's Outer Haven. Missouri also works as a reminder of how it was the ship which hosted the Japanese surrender during World War, signifying an end of a war. Mei Ling is also back and she has also become the captain of this ship, and she also informs the team that as soon as Outer Haven comes to surface to launch the nukes, Snake and the team will have to sneak into it to disarm the AI and stop it from launching any nukes using the virus Naomi has left with Sunny. The only problem here is that the corridor to the AI server is made up of microwaves, which will toast the insides of any person going through it. To which Snake replies, "Dearly,
Anybody got a smoke?
And with this, the operation starts where these three assholes are catapulted onto the submarine. Like, what the fuck? And then obviously these idiots get separated. Like, what the fuck? And then we get the objective to sneak through several thick Thai motherfuckers to get inside the interiors of the submarine, where we get welcomed by Meryl, who is being controlled by the Screaming Mantis, defeating whom is the most brain-aching task of the game, because if you remember, you dinner-eating buffoon, at the start of the video I said that I played this playthrough with mouse and keyboard, and for some reason my RPCS 3 considered my pad 1 as pad 2 and pad 2 as pad 1. Making me scratch my head for half an hour because I can't understand why can't I move. Fuck you, Otacon. Meanwhile, Screaming Mantis's background story isn't also that engaging according to me, as she was a war refugee in South America who got stuck in a torture chamber filled with bodies for several months, and to survive she had to eat those bodies and drink their blood, leading to hallucinations of screams and a permanent brain damage, which was pretty normal at this point. And after defeating her, Hideo Kojima makes us shoot her boobies with a tranquilizer gun to stop her from seducing us. And that was the last time I have said that sentence, because she was the last link of Beauty and the Beast unit. And after that, the best, I mean the best proposal scene happens in the history of entertainment industry, period.
Meryl, I've I've always loved you. Ever since Shadow Moses, when I first laid eyes on you. Meryl, marry me.
You've got a hell of a sense of timing.
What do you say?
I have to say, no.
You'd rather stay single? Okay, but we don't have to make it official.
No.
Well, how about we just move in together then?
Nope.
Why? Is there something wrong with me?
No. I'd just rather do things my way. Johnny. Marry me.
Huh?
I'll say it again. Marry me.
Sure. It'd be my pleasure.
I just adored the whole sequence of Akiba and Meryl fighting with hordes and hordes of enemies while planning their wedding. And this whole scene also works as a symbolization of now it's the next generation which is going to be the one taking the baton. While Snake heads for the server room, in the process of which his body has started to break. And even the syringe isn't helping anymore, and at just then, Raiden comes back without his both hands with a katana in his mouth to save Snake again one last time. And hence, Snake starts his walk through the microwaves, which will surely kill his body, but that is the sacrifice he is willing to take so that the people after him could live a better life, a better future. While this is happening, we get another split screen sequence where this time we only have to mash a single button to keep on going, and hence we could this time see properly how much sacrifice people are making to let Snake reach the server room, making our hand, my hand, work more diligently. And when we reach the server room, we get to see a depiction of a white petal graveyard from where this whole story started. And before everything goes to shit, Otacon succeeds in uploading the virus to the system, which destroyed every single AI system which was controlling war in the world, while leaving medical and public structure intact. And that is when we get to realize Ocelot wasn't the villain. Naomi wasn't a villain. She made this virus to stop the world from getting controlled by a digital age. She always wanted for people to have a free will, while Ocelot also wanted people to be free from the control of the Patriots, making us realize that Naomi, Ocelot, Eva were all just pawns of the Patriots who wanted the control to buffoons established gone so that this misery could end. And Ocelot also with this gets to finally fight Solid Snake one-on-one. And this is where everything ends. This is the point where Metal Gear Solid Saga ends, with two same ideologies divided by their circumstances fighting each other. While we get to live through all previous Metal Gear games before this, through this fight, with the music and aesthetic of health bars of previous games, even the movesets and camera angles changes according to the game the fight is depicting. And even after the end of this fight, there was no clear winner. Both the characters successfully completed their story arches, giving us a very dramatically emotional closure on both ends. And with that, Patriots fell, giving humanity another chance. And to show that, the camera pans out and displays US soldiers rescuing the survived Toad soldiers, even though how many of their own they have killed. And Otacon also blabbers about his dead girlfriend Naomi of how fundamentally correct she was. She was a borderline psychopath. Now, before heading to the epilogue of this game, I wanted to talk about the greater meaning that this game carried with its characters. Where although we have ignored Sunny a lot throughout the story, but she is the one for which all these events happened. Hideo Kojima always tries to portray a baton of future getting handed over by an older generation to a younger one, who will continue the legacy, and hence Sunny represents that younger generation whose future has been getting stolen. Meryl, who has become a part of the system and now hates the older generation for it. Raiden is a person whose future was stolen even before his birth, making him a ghost in a cell. Hideo Kojima, who got stuck with a legacy he made, and us, the players, who are declining to move forward just to stay with our long-gone memories. All of us are a failure of our stories, but the epilogue of this game tries to change that with hope. The point of giving the baton to the next generation is all about letting them make mistakes of their own and learn from them on their own. And that is what Metal Gear Solid 4 was all about. And now the epilogue, which has the world record for the longest cutscene in a video game, and it doesn't felt stretched to me at all when I played it. But I also understand that a long cutscene structure destroys the replayability of a game, but still Metal Gear Solid 4 doesn't hold back from doing it and keeps it as a center homage of the game. The whole epilogue starts with the wedding day of Meryl, where now she has forgiven Campbell and have understood the meaning of actually living off the shadows. Whereas Raiden is in the hospital where Rose comes to tell him that she portrayed to keep her and Raiden's child safe, giving Raiden another chance at life. Sunny finally gets to see the face of the sun and keep her foot on the actual ground so that she could make mistakes and learn from them herself, giving Otacon a closure on his perception of life. While Snake, still broken and feeling defeated, is soon accepting his fate on the very grounds where this saga started. He has to kill himself to save the world from himself. The final straw. And after this, we see Drebin and Otacon talking to each other, where he also explains that he, the Rat Patrol, all were pawns of the Patriots and were assigned to help Snake take down the AI system. And I really like the fact that even Drebin's truck, which was grey throughout the game, now has become white, showing a change in perception and the true motives of Drebin. And then Otacon tells Sunny that Snake now needs to rest. He needs to give on the baton. And after the credits, we get to see that Snake didn't shoot himself because somewhere inside he still had a will to live. And then a person shows up at the graveyard. Big Boss, the father, was finally in front of his son after so long. And with this tactical hug, Big Boss explains that his body throughout, not his, but of Solidus, while the dead boss from original Metal Gear was Venom Snake. And Big Boss was the person behind the curtains who planned the end of the Patriots system that Zero constructed to control a free world. And he planned this whole drama with Eva, Ocelot, and Naomi, where Eva, of course being his lover, accepted her mistakes and embraced her fate, while Ocelot did brainwashing on himself to make his identity similar to Liquid, and Naomi made the virus to destruct the AI in agony of the wrongdoing she did with Snake. Then Big Boss turns off the life support of Zero, ending all the sufferings through which all the protagonists went through. And with this, because Big Boss wanted to end himself because he was also the part of all these mistakes, asked Naomi to change the Fox-Die virus inside Solid Snake, which will let Snake live for a longer time without becoming a living bioweapon. But it will also kill Big Boss as soon as he will come in contact with Snake. And Big Boss chooses to do that in the same way through which he started this whole misery by standing in front of Boss's nameless grave. And to me, this whole scene felt very emotional, even though many people considered it overstretched, but I still love it. And after this, Snake goes back to Nomad and tells Otacon that he has quit smoking and he will live whatever life he has left to the fullest. To which Otacon replies that he will live that life with him to record it and pass on to the further generation, reminding people the importance of free will and life, because it's not us who choose where we want to take birth or what genes we have to carry, but it's us who choose to what kind of a life we want to live, what kind of a history we want to leave. It's never about living, it's about leaving something to keep you alive. At today's date, when Black Ops 7 is about to release and all these studios are trying to bait the nostalgia out of a consumer, Metal Gear Solid 4 worked as a question to if, and if yes, when is the right time to say no to a franchisee. Even after Metal Gear Solid 4, this franchisee didn't end, but Kojima tried to hand off the baton to Platinum Games with the release of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, but even that didn't end up anywhere, although it was so good. And after that whole MGS5 disaster happened, making a full stop in front of this saga. And I am thankful to MGS4 that it made a full stop to the story, after which nothing more could be told, and people like me could stay satisfied with a closure. And as we reach the end of this video, the final verdict could only be that MGS4 isn't a perfect video game. What it is a personal project. It's a message for the next generation, and it's the game with which Hideo Kojima-san started to make games which were more and more personal to him, and that made me respect MGS4 immensely. I love this saga. I love Metal Gears as a whole, and will always do, because it has given me a lot and would rather keep giving me a lot. With how every year whenever I come back to see it, it gives me something to carry again. And if you have watched this video till now, I really respect you. And thank you for staying to watch a person blabber about a video game he loves. I am not a proper content creator. I don't care much about copyrights or consistency. I make videos because I want to watch them myself and talk to the people who are like me. So if you enjoyed this video, then please consider leaving a comment or like or even a subscribe, because that is the only way through which I could gain more exposure. You were listening to Phantom speaking, and I will see you in the next one. Till then, it's not about changing the world. It's about doing our best to leave the world the way it is. It's about respecting the will of others and believing in your own.
Know this. Zero and I. Liquid and solidus. We all fought a long, bloody war for our liberty. We fought to free ourselves from nations and systems and norms and ages. No matter how hard we tried, the only liberty we found was on the inside. You are no longer a seed of war. It's time for you to see the outside world with your own eyes. Your body and your soul are your own. Forget about us. Live for yourself. This is